Welcome to First Baptist Church of Peru. I've got a Christmas story here for everybody. You know, it's a great time of year. Seems like just the other day the leaves were changing colors, and of course now there's hardly any leaves left at all. And, you know, late October the air started smelling different, and it just reminds you of the holidays, time with family, the holidays with relatives of days gone by and that are no longer with us, and we just had the big meal at Thanksgiving, and we put up Christmas decorations. It's cold. We're wearing pajamas. It's dark early. I'm ready for Christmas. I'm ready for the Christmas movies. Bring them on. I'm ready for, A Christmas Story, It's a Wonderful Life, The Grinch. And there's other good movies too, like A Christmas Vacation. But if you're going to watch that, watch it through VidAngel, which I highly recommend. They're a streaming service that allows you to watch all those type movies, but they strip all the filthy stuff out. So I highly recommend that. As a child, I lived off Brush Creek Road, which is right off Prue here. But it's funny, I tell people about it, and they're like, nobody around here seems to know what Brush Creek is, even though you pass it all the time. Anyway, as a kid, I grew up there, and we were visiting grandparents on Christmas Eve in Ramona. And, we had a wonderful evening, Christmas food, and unwrapping presents, and then we get in the car to go home, and it's cold outside, it's warm in the car, and snow starts coming down, and you know how it is in a car in the headlights. I mean, to a kid, it looks like a blizzard because, you're driving into the snow, and you know how it looks. And it's just so exciting because here I am now. I've got Christmas Day tomorrow. I get to unwrap gifts. I get to go out in the snow. I get to build snowmen. I get to build snow forts and have snowball fights and sledding. It's just sensory overload. And it's just so much love and innocence, so much life, just so many qualities of being a child that really enhances, the Christmas time of year. And I don't think those days are over. I really don't. I really think we'll have an even greater experience than this when we get to heaven. We'll be innocent. We'll be washed with the blood of the Lamb. There's going to be so much wonderment, so much love, so much family, amazing events like the marriage supper of the Lamb. And I just think that every day in heaven is going to be like the best Christmas memory. Who here watched The Chosen? Has anybody seen that series, The Chosen? Okay. Many people don't know this, but The Chosen started from a pilot called The Shepherd. And a lot of people who have seen The Chosen haven't even seen The Shepherd. But The Shepherd was a Christmas story. It was so popular that people, when this pilot first came out, that individuals donated their own money to this project, hoping the creators would create more content like this. And it was very successful. It was the most successful crowd-funded project in history, a media project in history. And it went on to, they went on to create the Chosen series that you all know today. And anyway, it was all inspired by that pilot. Just crazy. It was a huge success, like I said, and normally I would suggest you guys go watch The Shepherd. If I told you, man, this is the greatest video, you got to see it, you know how it is. Not a single one of you are going to go watch it. So, okay, awesome. You've seen The Shepherd. But have you seen the pilot, The Shepherd? Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, awesome. Um, you guys out there on the internet, you've had a long day at work, whatever. I highly suggest you go search for The Shepherd. You go watch this video. You're going to love it. Get you some popcorn. It's only 20-minute video. You can probably eat the popcorn in 20 minutes, right? I know I can. Matter of fact, I can probably eat it in less than 20 minutes. I remember when I used to go to the movies, and I'd get literally the biggest tub of popcorn, and I'd have it eaten before the movie even starts. That's how big of a pig I am. There'd be 80% in my belly and 20% all around me. That's, of course, the only way to eat popcorn. Okay, so anyway, because I know you guys aren't going to go see this video, I painstakingly went scene by scene through this video and dictated it. So I'm going to share it with you tonight. And I hope I do it as service. I hope I don't destroy it. Betty can tell you afterwards whether I did it a decent service or not. It's just so near and dear to my heart, especially right here at Christmas. I can't stand it. Now, before I get to this pilot, I don't know if I'm hitting something on the microphone.
Breathing.
Oh, am I breathing? Yeah. Years ago, I was so excited after seeing this trailer, I could not wait to see The Chosen. So you guys that love The Chosen, I apologize ahead of time. Everybody's opinions are different, and they all stink, I know. But I was so excited to see The Chosen when it came out. I watched it, and I was really disappointed. And then I watched season 1, and then I watched part of season 2, and I couldn't watch anymore. I haven't seen any more of The Chosen since then. But if you know anything about the writers of The Chosen, they like to give they like to elaborate on the biblical stories. They like to give you plausible scenarios of, what might have been going on during the time of these biblical stories. They let you see the characters, their personalities, what they could have been like, and all that stuff. So it can be really fun that way. So I would consider it, based on a true story. Anyway, back to the pilot. Let's begin. The Shepherd is inspired by the 2nd chapter of Luke. In the opening scene, we see a crippled man in his 30s named Simon hobbling around on a crutch with a poorly bandaged foot. You can tell this guy is a man of very meager means, wearing tattered rags that are barely an excuse for clothes. He has a single small lamb on a leash he's bringing with him on an unknown journey at this point. The movie introduction tells us that when Augustus Caesar became emperor of Rome, the prophets of Israel had been silent for 400 years. Suffering heavy taxation, the Hebrew people prayed for relief from the Roman occupation, and priests repeatedly read the old prophecies aloud in synagogues. Jews were eagerly waiting for the promised Messiah. This is why they frequently read the prophecies. The prophecies of the coming Messiah provided hope to the people. We see our protagonist, Simon, a filthy-faced, ruddy man, hobbling, trying his best to keep up with his other friends that are further ahead. You get the impression these men are sheep herders because of their staffs and how grungy they are. Each man has a lamb he's bringing with him on this journey. Up ahead, the group sees a water well with other townsfolk around, and they go up to get water too. And then the scene quickly becomes uncomfortable because you can tell the townsfolk look down on these people as lower class citizens, and they quickly make their excuses to leave. After getting some water, Simon and his ragtag band of herders once again begin the journey. And then you see up ahead at some crossroads, you see a sign that says Bethlehem. So apparently they're headed towards Bethlehem. The movie scene quickly transitions to their destination in Bethlehem, where Micah 5:2 is being read aloud in a synagogue. Now, the sheep herders are not in the synagogue, but the producers are just setting the scene, letting you hear some of the sights and sound of what's going on in Bethlehem. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, Though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose going forth have been from old, from everlasting. And this man shall be the peace. The scene switches back to the lively midday streets of Bethlehem. We see kids playing, carts rolling by, etc. It feels like some sort of event is occurring as travelers may be in town. You hear the sound of livestock in the background and, a lot of lambs. You hear the baas. You see Simon hobbling into town now with his little lamb in tow. His friends are already in town haggling with merchants. Along the main street in Bethlehem, we see many vendors and customers doing business. We see one of Simon's friends presenting his lamb to the Jewish leaders. He's telling the priest that his lamb is spotless. The priest looks the lamb over and agrees and accepts it on behalf of Simon's friend. Next, we see our humble friend Simon presenting his small lamb to the priest. While the priest is trying to inspect the lamb, Simon is focused on trying to ask a question about the coming Messiah. Simon says, "I've studied the Torah daily," and the priest cuts him off and says, "A shepherd wants to learn?" Simon continues, "Do you believe the Messiah will set us free from the occupation?" The priest says, "Yes, he will make a great military leader." You can tell he's not really interested in answering Simon's questions as he continues inspecting the lamb. Simon responds, "Are you sure? Because the priest last Shabbat read from Ezekiel, and he did not say..." The priest interrupts Simon and says, "How dare you? You brought this animal?" "I said spotless. This is for a righteous man, for a perfect sacrifice." Simon's older friend, who was standing nearby and eavesdropping, begins apologizing to the priest on behalf of Simon, saying, "Very, very sorry, very sorry." We see poor Simon hanging his head in shame. The priest says, "You wonder why the Messiah hasn't come? People like you keeping him away with your stains. If you come back here without a perfect lamb," the priest continues, glancing around at Simon and all his friends, "I'll banish all of you from the marketplace." They walk away apologizing to the priest. Moments later, one of Simon's friends scolds him while he lowers his head in shame again. Simon stumbles, he falls and hurts his arm, and it begins to bleed. As he inspects his arm, someone talking nearby catches his attention. He looks and sees a synagogue with a curtained door and hears scripture being read from within. He walks over and peers his head in and hears a priest reading Isaiah 9:2. "The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined." You can see the excitement on Simon's face as he listens. The priest continues, "Thou hast multiplied the nation and not increased the joy. They joy before thee according to the joy in harvest. And as men rejoice when they divide the spoil, for thou hast broken the yoke of his burden and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian." Suddenly a servant of the synagogue sees Simon and quietly rushes over and commands him to leave because he's filthy and dripping blood on the floor. As Simon is now making his way through Bethlehem with his little lamb in tow, he catches the eye of a young stranger holding a donkey by a rope, with a maiden riding on its back. The stranger asks Simon, "Excuse me, friend, could you point me to a well in this town? My wife hasn't had a drink for hours." Simon says, "At the other end of the square." Simon reconsiders, then says, Wait. Simon pulls out a canteen and hands it to the stranger. The stranger says thanks and gives the canteen to his wife on the donkey, and she drinks. Simon asks, "How far have you come?" The stranger says, "From Galilee, Nazareth." Simon says, "Don't say that too loudly here. You know what they say, nothing good can come from..." The stranger interrupts him and says, "I know what they say about Nazareth." Simon says, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Your secret is safe with me." As Simon glances at the young woman, she smiles at his comment as if she has a secret of her own as she readjusts her clothing to better conceal her swollen belly. Simon reaches out his hand and introduces himself to the stranger, but is rudely interrupted by a priest walking in between them en route to somewhere important, no doubt. Simon's conversation with the young stranger is cut short, and the stranger and his wife go on their way. The movie scene changes to Simon trying to hobble home, we assume anyway, or wherever he's abiding. He's now a long way from town in the wilderness. It's getting dark as the sun sets. The filmmakers echo the audio of a priest reading in the background. Strengthen ye the weak hands and confirm the feeble knees. Say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not, behold, your God will come with vengeance, even God with a recompense. He will come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap as an hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. A reading from the scroll of the prophet Isaiah. The scene switches to nighttime at a camp somewhere in a rugged, remote area. We see a campfire and sheep nearby. The sheep herders are busy finishing dinner, and Simon finally arrives. Simon asks if he can have something to eat, but his friends tell him not at the camp. He can eat and sleep with the sheep because of the way he disgraced them earlier. Simon grabs a burning stick from the fire to use as a torch and walks a little ways from camp. We can barely hear the conversation from the camp now, as Simon has found a nearby stream. He plants the torch in the ground and begins to try and wash the sore on his arm. All you can hear are crickets and Simon's panting as he constantly struggles to do mundane tasks. As Simon stands back up after washing his arm, an unusually fast wind blows out his torch. Then the wind really begins to pick up as Simon and his friends at the camp begin to look around, surprised by the sudden change of weather. The campfire blows completely out, and the area is almost pitch black now. Suddenly, a bright light shows all around the area as epic music starts to play, movie music starts to play. Then we hear angelic whispers. Apparently, they're audible to the sheep herders, but too distant for we, the audience, to make out. You see the herders drop to their knees. They begin to bow their heads to the ground. Simon is literally frozen in awe, listening to the words of the angels, his eyes watering as he resists the urge to blink for fear he might miss something. Moments later, the bright light and the whispers immediately end. It's dark and quiet, and the sheep herders begin to catch their breath. Simon, with half laugh and half cry, is so elated and begins to hobble forward. The herders begin cheering and laughing with excitement. They all begin running in the same direction, headed over the hill, excited to reach some location not yet known. You hear epic movie music playing in the background as Simon is struggling with all his might to reach the same location that his friends are running to. We see flashes as the scene switches to a woman in agony. We see the young maiden we saw earlier on the back of the donkey, now struggling in what appears to be childbirth. The scene quickly switches back to Simon, making a poor attempt to ignore the pain and try to run with a crutch while his friends are much further ahead. As we switch back and forth between the young woman giving birth and pain and Simon trying to run, we start to notice Simon taking longer strides. You feel yourself rooting for a miracle as it appears Simon looks stronger. Back to the woman in agony, then back to Simon trying to run again. And after a couple of large movie drum beats, Simon begins to plant that crutch into the dirt with authority, only twice more before finally casting it aside, realizing something that he's depended on for so long is just a joke to him now. We hear the low, epic movie sound of a piano key. Simon is now running with all the excitement and strength you would expect out of a healthy 30-year-old. Praise God, we're witnessing multiple miracles at once. We now see Simon has arrived at what looks like a stable. It's still dark outside, but emanating around a shabby stable door, we see a warm firelight from within. Standing outside, Simon takes a moment to take it all in and ponder what might be inside as the movie producers once again echo the sound of the priest reading. Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son. Excuse me. The scene switches inside the stable as we see the young stranger, Simon, the young stranger that Simon met earlier on the streets of Jerusalem, pulling a baby out and lifting him into the air, as we hear the priest echo, and shall call his name Emmanuel. We now hear the baby crying. Simon is still frozen outside the stables as all his friends run past him entering the stables. And then we realize at this point, he outran all of his friends, actually. As they enter the stables, they see the young maiden holding her newborn son. We see the young male stranger beckon the sheep herders to stay back, not knowing who they are or what their intentions are. Finally, Simon enters the stables, and the young stranger visibly calms down, recognizing his friend he met earlier in the day. The young man asks them to come closer. He carefully picks up the baby as if considering letting someone hold the newborn. Quickly, one of Simon's friends holds out his hands in excitement, wanting to hold the newborn, but the young stranger, he's considering the situation, and then he hands it to Simon. Simon, once again, is half laughing and half crying in amazement, holding the newborn. We hear his friends in the background saying, "We must tell everyone, we must tell everyone." Simon's friends say, thank you, and take off in excitement. Simon, still holding the newborn, says to the young maiden and her husband, "We've been waiting for this for so long." As he hands the baby back to the stranger, the young girl notices the scar on Simon's arm and gets her husband's attention. She tears off a piece of the swaddling cloth, and it's passed to Simon. After wrapping his injured arm with the cloth, Simon asks, "What will you name him?" The young girl says, "Jesus." Simon says, "I must go. People must know." He says it several times, and the young stranger repeats his words in affirmation. Simon takes another look back at the young mother holding her child as he leaves. The scene switches to the town of Bethlehem at night, and there are still townsfolk walking around. The sheep herders are running around trying to tell everyone the good news. As the scene plays out, in the background, the producers no longer echo the sound of a priest reading. Now we hear the sound of Scripture being read in Simon's own voice. "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever." In all the excitement, one of Simon's friends turns around, noticing Simon, and just reaches over and gets the biggest hug from him. He's telling Simon, you were right all along." Suddenly, the scene is broken up by the priest from earlier getting Simon's attention. "You!" Now, this is the priest from earlier, remember. "You! I told you not to come back here. So where is it? Have you found a spotless lamb for sacrifice?" You hear an epic drum beat and a low piano key as the scene changes, focused on Simon's face. You can tell there's so much going on in Simon's mind as he's struggling to find the perfect response. No longer do you see a shy, meager guy. While Simon continues staring at the priest, we see a smile slowly grow on his face. The movie ends and we see the title, "The Stranger." That's it. So you saw that one. You saw the pilot. Awesome. Man, that was one of the best videos I've ever seen in my life. Whew. I don't know why. You know, everybody gets excited about something different. You know, everybody finds something a little different. Man, I've seen that so many times. My wife doesn't even know how many times I've watched that video. I just love that video. Yeah, the video's much better than what I just dictated. Yes, I tried so hard. I tried so hard. That would be cool. Yeah. And when I get sick, I'll cough for months. So annoying. It's on YouTube. Just search for The Shepherd. And you want to watch the one from the Chosen channel, though, because there's some other shepherds out there. Like I was watching this one, and this preacher, God bless him, I'm sure he's a great guy. He just kept interrupting the video with his explanation on stuff. I'm like, ugh. So make sure you watch the one from the actual Chosen channel if you're going to watch it. Yeah, it's much better than, much better. You see, the video's really good. Because the music and everything, oh, it's really cool. I assume we're offline. Right, Skyler?